Hey guys, it's JayzTwoCents and you're watching the Friday, October 19th edition of Tech Addiction, and we're going to talk about why the Daily Mail says owning this makes you a girl. Ew. So the Daily Mail is reporting that iPads are taking away your masculinity. They're reporting that the sales of man purses for the iPad are on the rise. See, they're attributing the need for men to carry around the latest and greatest tablets and technology, and that brings up the iPad. And apparently iPad-type sling and fanny pack-type devices are on the rise amongst men, whereas they say women don't even feel the need to carry an iPad. So, feeling a lot more feminine already. So this week, Britain's Court of Appeal has ruled that Samsung has not infringed on Apple's iPad patents. And the patent, if you weren't aware, says that the rectangular design with rounded edges is something that Apple has apparently patented and pioneered in the industry. Who would have thought that Apple actually engineered geometry? Go figure. Anyway, Britain's Court of Appeals has determined that Samsung is not in violation of any of Apple's patents, and that Apple is hereby ordered to run ads on its website as well as its TV ads in Britain, stating that Samsung has not infringed upon its rights and to issue a public apology. So if you're in Great Britain, I want to see that ad. Send it to me. I would love to put it up on Tech Addiction because a public apology from Apple over something like this would just be golden. So speaking of Apple, Apple's in hot water again. I am so sick of reporting on Apple. I'm sorry. I apologize, but it's almost like a train wreck. It's like Apple versus the world. It's sad. They're in lawsuits with Motorola, Samsung on many different fronts, and now Apple's being sued by one woman. And that woman owns this eyeball. You see, she's a digital artist, and she took this photo and she made this photo. A lot of people thought that this was an Apple-generated image, but it's not. And they've been using this to demonstrate the Retina display on the new MacBook Pro. You may have seen it, I saw it, but it turns out that the woman who this picture belongs to never gave Apple permission to use it. Really, Apple? Do you just think you can now steal people's stuff? Huh? You think you can patent geometry? And now you think you can steal eyeballs? I'm terrified now that my iPad and my iPhone are going to steal my eyes at night. What's interesting about this article, though, is it reads that Apple obtained the image from one of the photographer's agents in New York, but Apple expressed in writing to the photographer and the agent that they did not plan to use this picture in any of its ad material, that they simply wanted to use it for layout purposes. I don't really know what that means, but anyway, they decided to use it, and now they're in hot water, and chances are this is going to become a very valuable photograph, because I have a sneaky suspicion that this will never go to court. It will certainly settle, and if Apple had to pay $10 million for this, that's just a drop in the bucket, right? They can have one of my eyeballs for $10 million. So in my last episode of Tech Addiction, I talk about the fact that the Apple iPhone 5 has been on back order ever since release. It's been a 3 to 4 hour week. 3 to 4 hour week? That'd be an awesome work week. There's been a 3 to 4 week delay through Apple if you ordered the phone, and I had ordered my phone a couple of weeks ago from Verizon, and they hadn't even taken my money yet. What's funny about that is the very next day they took my money, and then I had a 2-day tracking number, and now I have my iPhone 5. So I'm going to give you a little mini review of how I feel about this phone compared to my iPhone 4S, and I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't feel any better, right? Should it have? I don't know. The 4G on it's awesome. I mean, look at the speed right here. This is insane on a cell phone. You see LTE right there, 54 megabits down, almost 11 megabits up. But other than that, and the fact that it's really, really skinny, I mean, it's got a little bit bigger screen, but as you can see right here, shameless plug of my channel, JayzTwoCents. Subscribe today. It's got a black bar on the bottom and on the top, because most of the apps don't conform to the new 4-inch screen. So it's going to take some time for developers to update their apps to be able to tell the difference of what device you're on and to, make everything fit. I ordered the white and the bare aluminum iPhone because I was scared of the black iPhone and the scratching issues. But it didn't save me from the scratches. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's a big one there, 7 scratches on this thing from the moment it came out of the box. I don't really care, but it's just, as I mentioned in the other video, it's the principle of the fact that it's brand new, it shouldn't have anything wrong with it. So I'm happy with it, but if you have a 4S and you don't do a lot with the internet, I'm always on the internet, I had to have 4G. If you find yourself using Wi-Fi more than anything else and you just aren't anal about the speed of the internet, there's no point in getting this phone. There's not. The 720p front-facing camera is nice because I kind of want to do some vlogs later, maybe get a little vlog series going, so I could use that as a vlogger. But the slightly better front-facing camera, the 720p front-facing camera, a thinner, lighter phone, one that scratches easier, and 4G are just not worth the upgrade path. The only reason I did it was because I was able to sell my iPhone 4S and make up like 85% of the cost of the phone. So it was kind of a no-brainer. In the end, it ends up costing me like $50 for the phone, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you were to go out and have to keep your iPhone 4S and pay outright the $300 or $200, whichever model you get, I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. Not to mention the build quality on this thing is not pristine like they advertised it. The 4S feels better in your hand, it feels more solid, and that's all she wrote. So a census up in the Northern California area of Silicon Valley, that's the San Francisco Bay Area if you weren't familiar, did a recent poll on the average salary of some of the largest technology companies in the world. For instance, in Silicon Valley, you've got Google, you've got Apple, you've got Facebook, you've got Zynga. They all are based in Silicon Valley, so it's very competitive for companies to be able to keep quality engineers. So Google has decided in order to stop companies from poaching its engineers, Apple's been after their map techs, or their map engineers, Facebook has been after some of their front page design engineers, and they've been successfully stealing talent from Google. So Google's decided to fight back by just raising everybody's salaries. Last year they did a 10% across the board raise, and right now Google has the highest paid software engineers of anybody in Silicon Valley, and more than likely the entire nation, because the average software engineer salary at Google is $128,000 and some change. And that's just an average. We got an airplane flying by. Now I gotta wait. And we got a helicopter. So the average salary of a software engineer at Google is $128,000 and some change. To put that in perspective, the average software engineer salary in the nation is only $92,000. So you're talking almost $40,000 more annual to work for Google than to say, somebody else in the nation. Facebook comes in at second at $123,000 and change, and Apple comes in third at $114,000 and some change. Now this is average salary, people. This is like and base salary coming in working as a first-year engineer. You can make that much money. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just put in my application at Google, and if you're an IT engineer or you've got any sort of software background or even just IT and networking, I suggest you apply at Google. Chances are you can make some serious dough. So Google's really out to make their Chromebook more affordable and a bigger staple in the mobile OS market by reducing the price of their Samsung-built Chromebook. They've reduced the price to $249, and for that you get a 16GB hard drive. It does have an expandable memory slot where you can add more memory for putting more files or programs or whatever. That's 2 gigs of RAM, and it has the capability of running 1080p at 30 frames per second. They didn't say if that was games or movies, but this thing is really small. It only comes in at 2.5 pounds. It's only 0.8 inches thick. And I was just at Best Buy and I happened to take a look at it, and it's very impressive. It's a very quality build. I don't know what I would use it for, but maybe if you want something that's very light, mobile, maybe something that's kind of like a MacBook Air, but you don't need as much power. It's only $250, and I think that this might be a pretty good buy. But Google really wants to make the Chromebook more affordable, and I think $249 price point is definitely affordable. So in the first episode of Tech Addiction, I mentioned to you that AMD had mentioned that it was no longer going to be making performance desktop processors when PileDriver was released. We're going to take that a step further today because rumor has it that AMD is getting ready to lay off 20 to 30% of its staff. And AMD currently employs over 11,400 employees. So we're talking over 3,500 people potentially losing their jobs because AMD just has not been able to compete. First, it had manufacturing problems where it couldn't keep up with demand, then it had performance problems where it couldn't keep up with the speak and spell, and now we've got just their stock is plummeting into the ground. You got ARM has cornered the mobile market. AMD couldn't get its foot in the door. You've got Intel that's covered, everything when it comes to personal computers, and their Xenon processor has just been creeping and creeping and creeping on the Opteron processor, and there's just nothing AMD can do to stop those two trains from plowing them into the ground. So it's official now. If you have AMD, abandon ship, jump ship, get in your dinghy, row for your life, because AMD, I have a feeling within the next 5 years, if that, is no longer going to be around. It's going to be bankrupt, it's going to be gone, that's it. So that also means if you're looking at building a computer, I suggest you buy your Intel products now, because when you have a major competitor, if they ever really were, who's no longer in the scene, prices only go up. Look at gas, right? There's no competitor to gas. Look how much we pay. So Halo 4, one of the most anticipated games of 2012, is due to come out next month, and Microsoft is pissed because somewhere along the line, this copy of the game got free, got out, and they don't know where the security breach was, but if that wasn't bad enough, copies of this game have now been appearing all over the peer-to-peer network scene. So Microsoft wants to find out who leaked this, and they want to find out what type of prosecution they can pursue on this. So they're using their own personal security as well as local law enforcement to try and track down who initiated the leak and find out what they can do to hold them responsible. Because people have been saying already that they played the game, they've beaten the game, and it's popped up all over the peer-to-peer sites. So Microsoft's pissed. Speaking of games, I'm going to be starting a brand new series come the first week of November. I'm going to call it Game Addiction. And I'm going to be talking about the latest and greatest news when it comes to games on PC, console, and I'm going to let you know everything that's coming out, let you know how it looks, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the world of games. I like games. Alright guys, that's all I got for this week, so we're going to end this the way that we always do, and I'm going to bring you technology's dumbass of the week. And this week, that dumbass is Timothy Clark. You see, Timothy Clark walked into his local Walmart and said, I'm going to get me a 5-finger discount on some video games. Yep. So he went over into the electronics section and somehow got into the glass case, and he stuffed 26 Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 games in his shirt. 26. He's not a big dude. That's obvious. That's gonna show, man. So anyway, he stuffs them in his shirt and then he kind of tries to meander right out the door, and Walmart security stops him. Now he started to put up a little bit of a fight and tried to get away, but it was pretty much pointless because you see, Timothy Clark is the dumbass who decided to try and shoplift from Walmart $637 worth of items, because not only did he have 26 games, he had 2 Xbox controllers in there as well. And for those of you who game on console, you know Xbox controllers are not cheap. On the Shop with a Cop charity event, there were 50 off-duty police officers working at Walmart that day, earning money for charity. Timothy Clark, for trying to shoplift at Walmart on a day where there's 50 cops present, you're a dumbass. Alright guys, so that's all I had this week. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Tech Addiction. I hope you look forward to November's release of the new Game Addiction coming out on Tuesday. Check out last week's Tech Addiction if you haven't checked it out already. And I'm going to do something a little bit new here. This right here, this is what I'm going to start each week, called the Cool Video of the Day. And this one's brought to you by the good guys over at Rocket Jump. That's Freddie Wong and Brandon and the other crew. And they've put together an awesome, and I mean awesome, RC car chase scene. Very dramatic, very Michael Bay, if not better. So I suggest you go over there and check it out. It's some pretty cool stuff. So if you've liked today's video, do me a favor. Favorite, like, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter, do all that cool stuff that makes me feel better about making content for you, because that's why I do it. So until the next week, peace out.